I have some friends who are truly grand and wonderful people. And primarily, I am a researcher. I am a researcher because I feel that I was not guided well in my childhood, in my youth. And to some of my grand friends, you know who you are, I have been mentioning my boxes. Now, directly behind me, there is a set of cards marked off for 14 days. There is also a single box that I call the pleasures and problems box. And then there are three boxes: faith, confidence, and love. In April 1994, I came to a very scary conclusion just from some reading and research. It is scary and terrifying that the Hebrew scriptures, what they call the Old Testament of the Bible, it is scary and amazing that those Hebrew scriptures hold 200 to 300 predictions about an event. Now, those predictions are scattered across 1,000 years, and those predictions are written by 30 people who did not know each other. And all those predictions are pointing to an event, a freaking event. And the event is not a government, the event is not a global warming or an ice age on the earth. The thing that these predictions are predicting are not a war or an earthquake. All these prediction points are pointing to one thing, and that's just one little person, a person who lived for about 33 years and who is known for having supernatural powers. I mean, just amazing powers. That's how the person is known. Period. He is first known for the power to send bad spirits away from people who are crazy, people with personality disorders, people with overreactive behavior, obsessive behavior. All these predictions are pointing to one little person who was not even a world traveler. He didn't go to India and Africa and the British Isles. He traveled around in a small area about the size of New Jersey. Now, all these predictions pointing to the life of one person. But then there's a problem. The thing called the New Testament, I like to call it the Koine Greek New Testament. Way back over 2,000 years ago, the business language of the world was Koine Greek, which is a writing that is all capitals. There's no upper and lower case, so you can't emphasize or capitalize. And there's no punctuation. There's no commas, there's no periods, there's no exclamation points. The Koine Greek language is a very simplistic language. And the Koine Greek New Testament is a very strange literary miracle. Now nobody in the churchianity that raised me up pointed these things out to me. These are the basic, most amazing points. Lamont, you're on top of this. The thing that they call the gospel or the thrilling news is, number one, fulfilled predictions, and number two, eyewitnesses to this guy after he had a public execution. He was popping up supernaturally and appearing to people across 40 days. Then over 500 people watched him just levitate up into the spirit realm, disappearing through the clouds. That's the story. That's the rumor. If it's a fairy tale, who the heck cares? But if he really did resurrect from the dead and was seen by many people, then we should probably figure out exactly what he said and what he instructed. And I've discovered that the Jesus following stuff is supposed to be closed meetings with men, male human beings, who admit everything, including the regular flow of their seed, which sounds completely absurd and weird. But in the season of the Second Temple, all the Jewish people were completely separate from all non-Jews. And their code of ethics and the responsibility things were totally universal. And they were giving the women 14 days of special love and care. And any time that the man had a flow of seed, they were giving the men special blessing times until this next sundown or for 24 hours. And that other box, the pleasures and problems box, those are all the areas where actual spirit beings who are observing us can actually begin to control our personality. There are spirit beings who are watching the things that we're angry about, the things that we're afraid of, the things that we love and that we're longing to get our hands on, our pleasures, our passions, all of the powerful emotions, that box of pleasures and problems. Those are the areas where actual invisible spirit beings can begin to override our best choice. Like, okay, I want to stay focused because I want to finish this writing project. And there's spirits around me who know I like to be distracted by spiritual commentaries. I like to be I allow myself to be distracted by automotive history, world history, transportation history, history of boats and sailboats, and sailboat stories. So there are areas where my attention can be drawn off of things that I want to complete, because there are spirit beings around me who are constantly observing and constantly trying to draw me off of what you would call a path of success. And just because you claim to know God or love God doesn't mean that those spirit beings are going to stop trying to pull you off base. As a matter of fact, they get more powerful and more crafty, and they love people walking around in a Jesus t-shirt hurting people or doing things that are just plain unwise or hurtful to humans or self-destructive. So these are my boxes. And this is serious stuff. This is the stuff that my parents, my elders, no one in my community, nobody in the churchianity atmosphere gave me coaching on. And Then I discovered that I was adopted. Then I discovered that both my mother and my father were extremely friendly pleasure givers. I'm talking about sexual pleasure givers. Both my mom and my dad, who I didn't meet my dad until I was 40 years old. And then I look back on my life and I was stuck in this psychological, emotional roller coaster ride of desire and pleasure giving. I call it arousal addiction, friendly arousal addiction. And on the surface, it might not look that bad, but I'm telling you, it was contributing to my suicidality. I wanted to kill myself, and I had a tendency towards violence in my mouth and my words. And I'm really surprised that I didn't commit suicide, because I was making plans across many years. So this here is actually due to my discoveries from the writings that hold the prediction. So here's the point. Sorry, I'm so long-winded. It's scary to discover that these writings and this supernatural visitor are really like wisdom that's coming from the other realm. I mean, this is beyond the human realm. This is speaking of the things that are invisible and unknowable to the human mind. And people get caught up in the physical entities of the visitable universe and the control and success elements of human life. And you've got to focus on the afterlife. I mean, 30 years ago, I started focusing on the afterlife, the spirit realm, and how to interface with spirit beings. So here's the game. In Leviticus 12, we learn that the mother is told to nurture a girl child for 80 days with no interruptions, so that there's a spirit of peace between the mother and the girl. The mother is told to nurture the boy child for 40 days, half the time of the nurture of the girl. And that's an indicator, if you read between the lines, the friendly spirit who loves humans, who is trying to put threads of connection through into our minds, that friendly spirit gave what they call the law, which is literally instructions to prevent humans from going insane in the way that many people around them, nations around them, are going insane. And Yeshua said, not one bit of the instruction in the law will become useless until I return. So that means that, number one, you are not quote unquote saved or rescued through the points in the law. You're rescued through your faith and wonder of this supernatural visitor, Yeshua, the predicted one. But the articles in the law help you understand how to stay on a steady path in the midst of human insanity. Now, in Leviticus 15, the community, the Israelish Jewish community, is told in the untouchable or uncleanness laws, which are not moral laws. They are literally a set of instructions to help the family be attentive to important things. There's like a hidden, like if you, I did this study, the personal inner study called Finding the Love in Leviticus, finding out if you're going to follow all of these practices, including the practice of making these sin offerings. If you're going to do these things, you're really going to be monitoring your behavior in a very intense way. So, the woman has a flow. And in Leviticus 15, it says that the woman is special, really special. Something special's going on for 14 days. Even if the flow is only 5 days, count off 7 days. That's a row of 7. And then, when that is complete, give the woman 7 days of peace. So there are 14 days out of every month for a fertile woman where she is called to be treated extra special by the family. Why? Because she's the baby catcher. Number one, her body is such a satisfying miracle for a male human being. Now, I never had a daddy who spoke to the family like this. But honestly, seriously, when you are a male human being, and your member is big, strong, beautiful, and erect, to be able to enjoy the woman body is such a smooth and comforting and satisfying thing. It's the most miraculous thing in the world. And the way that the woman looks, or the style of her body, or her clothing, it has no comparison to the miraculous wonderfulness of the feeling of being able to enjoy the woman when you're ready as a man. I mean, the woman doesn't have to do anything. She literally has the most comforting, satisfying, smooth, wonderful, miraculous gift of just her body. There's an old Eastern saying that probably comes from Solomon. God's secret is man. Man's secret is power, meaning the power to plant the seed. And woman's power is body. Woman can take the seed of a man and turn it into a brand new person. It's amazing. So the reason why there are 14 days of written out appreciations, the wonders of a woman, the great things about you and your life, every single one of those panels has little cards that have written encouragements, love, appreciation, and even a measure of warnings and exhortations. And when the 13 to 17-year-old foster kid in my house, who happens to be a girl, if she has her cycle, she's instructed through the 14 days to read a couple of those cards every day, to be reminded that the family and her friends are in awe of the woman form that is a miraculous gift from the supreme designer. She didn't even design her woman form. And many women are, looking in the mirror all the time and wanting to know whether people like them or their appearance and all that kind of stuff. And they don't even need to really fuss over that appearance because they have such a power. Their body already is such a power. Okay, so also in Leviticus 15, it says that the male human beings, if there is ever a flow of seed, they are untouchable until the next sundown, or for the next 24 hours. And these 3 boxes, love, confidence, hope, and faith, the word hope in the Greek language means confidence. It means trust. It means I've got an anchor, and it's strong, and it will hold my boat through the storm. The word actually means confidence, in my estimation, more than hope. Because the word hope in English is like, well, I hope that something nice happens. It doesn't have the confidence in it that the Greek word has. So it's love, confidence, and faith. And so when the male human being has a flow of seed, he's instructed to pull a couple of cards out of each one of those boxes to be remembered by all the people, including the women, how wonderful they are, and how the men are judged more harshly for how they're handling their decisions. And if you really read and reread Leviticus 15, you discover that ejaculation is not called a sin. But Yeshua says that if you are lusting after another someone, you have committed adultery with that person. So there's a tricky question. Can a man go through arousal? Can a woman go through arousal without lusting after another person? This is a valid question. Can a person just have a measure of body enjoyment? Because once you learn the body enjoyment, it's relatively difficult to set it aside. It becomes, a pleasant habit. And Yeshua says, if you divorce your person, you cause them to commit adultery. And if you read between the lines, it's saying that since, the arousal and the desire has been awakened, it's not easy to just turn it off. So you're going to end up with another person from time to time if you get put away from your person. And that's a very interesting set of, points to discuss. And with the, my gosh, hey, mommies and daddies, do you want your girls to go out and start making some serious money on the OnlyFans? Is that something that you want them to be doing? Because that is a valid part of life now. All of the things that go on the web, on the internet, all of the people posting pictures and inviting people into videos and stuff like that. That is basically a part of relationships and human interaction now. And if you can't get down to, some basic guidelines and some discussion about the kind of things that are going to be happening to your friends and to your children, then, actually you don't care. My problem with the Christian peoples is they don't care enough to consistently address the issues of desire, arousal, etc., and check in a closed communion time with the men. It's the men that are supposed to be challenged. When the men are actually honest about absolutely everything in a cheerful way, the women and children can admit to the men that they're closest to the problems that they're having, but they don't even have to admit their faults in the more gathered times. It's the men. The men are responsible for being a voice of good cheer and guidance and leadership. And this thing with these boxes, okay, imagine you're a 13 to 17